Hello. This sermon audio is a ministry of the Town Church in Fort Collins, Colorado. If you would like to learn more about us, how to connect, or how to support us, go to our website, thetownchurch.org. While listening to the Bible preached is a healthy part of our spiritual formation, it is not the whole picture. So if you aren't a part of a local church, we encourage you to prayerfully commit to a local body of believers where you live. We're glad you can join us, and we hope God uses the following sermon to reveal more of His glory to you.
Well, good morning again. Now I feel like I'm all alone. If you have a Bible, turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 11. We've been working through Ecclesiastes for the past several weeks. If you don't have a Bible, there should be one in the pew near you. You can grab one of those. If you don't own a Bible, or don't own one as pretty as the one sitting near you, we would love to give it to you. Even if it's someone else's, we would love to give it to you. Don't do that. But the black one's there in the pews. You can take that home and use that and read it. There is life in the Word of God, and so that's there for you. Ecclesiastes, if you're looking for it, the book of Psalms is right in the middle of the Bible, and then turn a couple books past that, and you should find Ecclesiastes. On March 2nd, we began looking at this book, Ecclesiastes, and it's been an interesting book together as we've worked through it. It's been good. We have one more week. Next week is our last week in Ecclesiastes. And so over the last weeks, though, what we've seen in the book is that we've seen this. The big idea through the whole thing is that God is sovereign. He's sovereign over all things, in control of all things, ordering all things. That's who God is. And if you're thinking about, okay, let's just put it in terms of a belief system of who God is, right? God is God. It's true. He's God. Let's put it in that belief system. And the question then that comes to mind is, isn't it comforting to know that the God we're talking about is over all things? Isn't that comforting? Because what's the alternative? What's the alternative? That he's not? That he's over just some things? And we don't know which things he's over at what time? What's the alternative to God being sovereign over all things? It's scary to me to think that there would be a God that's in control of some things. No, God's over everything. And so we've been talking about how God is sovereign over all things throughout the book, that we may lack wisdom, but God doesn't. That we may lack an understanding of what will happen in the future, but God knows those things. And we may see and experience evil and wickedness and pain in all kinds of ways in this world, and God knows about those things. God knows them, and it's no surprise to Him that those things occur. He's working in those things to bring all those things together to fit His purpose. He's in that. He's in those things. That there isn't anything happening on this planet or beyond this planet that goes unnoticed by God. And so we've talked about these things. Last Sunday, we talked about this, and we talked about it as a township, at our house as a township. And here's the question that came to mind last week and then throughout the week is this. If God is sovereign over all things, and He is, why is that not always a comfort? It's not. It's not always a comfort. If we're honest, it's not always a comfort. But it should be, shouldn't it? It should be, but it's not. And it's not a comfort when our view of how God should act is different than how God actually acts, right? It's not a comfort when our view of how we see God working things out and how we think He should act is different than how He actually acts. And that gets uncomfortable for us. And what does that cause us to spiral into? It causes us to spiral into a place of fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety. And those two words are different, by the way. There's some differences between those two words. There's a book that's been helpful in understanding this for me. It's by Edward Welch. It's called Running Scared. I think we have a copy or two in the library. You can pick that up. But if you wrestle with fear and anxiety and worry and doubt and all of those things, this book could be helpful in giving you a proper understanding of the fear of God, the right fear of God. Anyway, in this book, he differentiates between fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety, and he tells us what those are. He says, fear is the experience you have when a car is racing right towards you and you barely escape it. That's fear. Or you have that sense where your stomach kind of drops. We were in our front yard a few weeks ago playing some kind of ball with my boys. And so the six of us are out there, and a car comes around the corner and fishtails around the corner and sort of recorrects heading right toward our house, and we're in the front lawn. Right? And so my stomach drops, and I feel that sort of sick feeling, and I sort of gather my kids like this, as if that's going to do anything, right? But that's fear. And he goes on to describe that anxiety is the lingering sense after that that life is fragile. And you continue to have those waves of like, what if that happens again? Or spiraling into what if that happened and this happened and this happened. So fear and anxiety are different. And we experience both of those, don't we? In life, as we think about the sovereignty of God, at times we fear both. We experience both fear and anxiety. Both of those are produced. We fear God because we've seen His power at work in very visible ways at times. We've seen His power at work, and so we fear Him. We have anxiety because we're not sure when or how God may act in those powerful ways again. And so we have anxiety about that. It may be now that He acts like that. It may be 3 weeks from now. It may be 17 years from now. Who knows when it's going to happen? And so we have this sort of underlying sense of anxiety because God's in control of all things, and it doesn't produce a comfort in us. I don't care how manly or womanly you are. We all experience fear and anxiety and the uncertainties of life under the control of a sovereign God. We just do. We do. And so the result of a life lived in fear and anxiety in those uncertainties does what? What's it produce? It produces a joyless life. It just produces this life that's joyless. Let's be honest. It's really difficult to move forward in a joy-filled life if fear and anxiety about the sovereignty of God rules us, isn't it? It's really difficult for us to move forward in a joy-filled life if the fear and anxiety of God being under a sovereign God rules us. If it's fear and anxiety that produces. Our thinking, I think, often is, if I could be in control of this situation, or if I could be in control of this scenario, or if I could understand what's going to happen in the future, then I could move forward with much more freedom and joy. If I was over all of this, if I could control this, then I could move forward in freedom and in joy. If I knew what was going to happen, if I knew the outcome, then I'd have a joy-filled life. It's the fear and anxiety of the unknown that often robs us of joy, isn't it? So in the passage we get to today, the preacher, the teacher, the author of Ecclesiastes commands us to rejoice. And at the same time, he commands us to remember that God is God. And both of those things come together, and both of them exist at the same time. He commands us to rejoice, and at the same time, he commands us to remember that God is God. Let's go in, and we'll read from chapter 11. I think you'll see where we're headed. Look at verse 7. We left off with verse 6 last week. Let's look at verse 7. We'll read a few verses and dive in. He says this, "Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity." Do you see how he starts from the very beginning, how the teacher is speaking from the very beginning about the good things of life? He uses this metaphor for life as light. Light is a metaphor here of life, and he says it's sweet. It's sweet. It's pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. It's a pleasant experience, life is. If you have many years of life in you, if you have, for you Trekkies, lived long and prospered, what does the teacher say? He says, if that's the case, then rejoice in them all. If you've lived many years, he says, rejoice in them all. And I want us to see this very clearly, and I want it to sink in deeply. The teacher does not say, enjoy the days that are good. Do you see that? He does not say, let him enjoy the very best of those days. No, he says, if a person lives a long time, let him enjoy them all. Let him enjoy them all. Good, bad, and in between, let him enjoy them all. Do you see the very last part of verse 8? He says that the days of darkness will be many. He knows that. He recognizes that that's the case, and all that comes is vanity. But he says, let them enjoy them all. So you see here where we're going. Big picture sort of look at this. He says, rejoice in your days. You have life on this earth, so rejoice in it. Good, bad, and everything in between. In light and darkness, rejoice in life. It's possible. Right? This part is not a command yet. He's not commanding us to rejoice yet. He's saying, let us rejoice. Let us rejoice. It's possible. It's possible. So let's do it. Let's rejoice. Keep going. Look at verse 9. He says, rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. Remove vexation from your heart and put away pain from your body. For youth and the dawn of life are vanity. So first, here's what the preacher tells us. He tells us first, rejoice in your days. You've got them, rejoice in them. Let's rejoice. And then now he tells us, rejoice in your youth. And this is a command. He's saying, rejoice in your youth. You do it. Rejoice in your youth. Now, we need to see a distinction here from verses 7 and 8. The preacher reminds us to rejoice in our days and then rejoice in every day after that. And that's a great reminder. We need that. But then here's the question. Have you noticed a tendency in your own life to believe that one day things are going to get better and then you'll rejoice? Do you have that? One day things are going to get better than they are now, and I know that I'm supposed to rejoice. And one day when things are better, then I will rejoice. I will. I'll be able to rejoice in a more robust way. We often look forward to something else in life because we think things are going to get better. And this happens throughout all of life, doesn't it? I mean, it starts at a very early age. I have memories of this from my earliest memories of childhood. I remember my sister going to school, going to kindergarten, and I sat at home and I thought to myself, I want to be like my sister and I want to be in school. Right? Little did I know what was coming. But I want to be in school. I'm looking forward to something else. And then half-day kindergarten came, and I remember wishing at half-day kindergarten, I think it was every other day even, wanting to go to a full day of school. Right? And so we're just always looking for something different. I'm in a half day of school now, and I want to go to a full. The letter people are good, right? S, super socks, that's good and great, but I want to go on to a full day of school because then I get to slide that tray down, right? And get food at the cafeteria, and that's awesome. And so we're looking on to more and better things. And then I get to junior high, and that's great because I get my own locker. Right? I get my own locker where I get to store all my books in their pristine condition because they're never coming out of there. But wouldn't it be great if I could just go on to high school, right? Because in high school, I don't have to slide that tray anymore. I can go off campus to have lunch. Right? And so I'm looking ahead at the days to come, and we just do this throughout all of life, right? And I wanted my driver's permit so I could drive, but if I have my permit, that means my parents are sitting next to me, and I don't want that, so I want my driver's license so I can drive without my parents sitting next to me, and I want to be a senior in high school, and that's great, but I want to go on to college, but then I get to college, and I want to get out of school, right? And on that kind of thought goes, right? And I want to have a girlfriend, and now I do, and that's great, but I'm really looking forward to being engaged. That's really what I want. And then being engaged was great, right? No, it wasn't, but I really want to be married. That's what I want. I want to be married. Because being married is fun and exciting, and so I want. That's where I want to go, and I want to look forward to the things ahead. And now we're married, and that time is here. But wouldn't it be great if we could just move to a new city, start a life together, not in the city that we've both lived in for us. So let's move to a new city and start a new life together. And wouldn't it be great if we could get a dog? That would be good. We should hey, how about we get 2 dogs? Because that's going to solve all of life's problems. Because dogs are fulfilling, and wouldn't it be great, though, if we could then replace that with children? Right? Now I want children. And so finally we have a baby boy, and nothing is there that's lacking in our rejoicing in our little apartment in Chicago. Now finally being finished with graduate school, having a son. But just one? Really? Is that where we're stopping? Just one son? No, let's have another one. How about another one? How about another one? How about another one? I think I got them all. Right? Children are great, but won't it be great when we can stop having children, right? And then we can we can just settle into routine, right? And we can have fun with the sons that God has given us. And it is fun, right? And we want to look forward to, and won't it be great when they start walking and talking and saying, Daddy? Won't that be fun? When that begins to happen, won't it be great when one of them is old enough? When one of them is old enough and mature enough to start watching the others so we can go out, right? Thought I was going somewhere different there, didn't you? Right? And so we just look forward to the things that are out there. Won't it be great when? 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 And then in verse 9, the preacher says this, stop it. Just stop. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Just stop. And rejoice now. And this instruction goes to everyone. I don't care if you're 9 years old or if you're 90 years young. This goes for everyone. Rejoice in the days of your youth. Rejoice now while you're able to rejoice. While you're young, rejoice. And sure, you may think that things are going to be better, right? One day things are going to be better when my teeth fall out and I get to drink my meals. That'll be good, right? But he's saying enjoy it now. Enjoy your youth now. Stop looking forward to something else and having the mentality that says, then I'll be able to rejoice. And I think in our little Christian subculture, we get to this place, don't we, where we Christianize this and we say, oh, one day, what a glorious day it will be when I get to be in heaven. And in some ways, aren't we doing the same thing? When all of this is gone, and that's good and right, so don't hear me say that we shouldn't long for something else, something beyond us, something where we're face to face with Jesus. We're to long for that. But I think often we use that as a cop-out to not enjoy the life that God's given us here. The preacher continues with this command to rejoice by saying, go for it. He just says, go for it. That's what we want to hear, right? He says, walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes. The things that you want to do that will bring you enjoyment, do them. The things that you see that could bring you pleasure and enjoyment, do them. One thing we've tried to do as parents, and we've failed often at this, but one thing we've tried to do as parents is to as much as we can, use the word yes. Just say yes. And so, Dad, can I have a mohawk? Yes. Dad, can I put the lawn sprinkler under the trampoline? Yes. Dad, can I have coffee for breakfast? Yes. Dad, can we climb this tree? Yes. Dad, can we use your hammer and nails? Why? So yeah. So you go that route, and that's what we've tried to do over the years, is just say yes as often as we can. And for those of you who are parents, don't you want that? Don't you want your children to enjoy their childhood? And at the same time, hear this, at the same time, shouldn't we rejoice in our lives now too? That's what the preacher's getting at here. Rejoice in your life. It's good to have life, and today you have life, so rejoice. Rejoice. But the preacher knows, and you know, and I know that kind of mentality has its limitations, doesn't it? It's got to have its roadblocks at some point. It's got to have the guardrails. We can't just throw caution to the wind and say, I'm going to enjoy everything I possibly can, and I'm going to do it in the way that I think I can do it and get away with it. No, he says there are limitations, and those limitations have been set by God. At the end of verse 9, we're told, he says this, he says, but know that for all of these things, God will bring you into judgment. Now that seems to put a little bit of a damper on things, doesn't it? And then we get to this place where thinking that God's out to ruin our fun. He's out to squelch our rejoicing, isn't he? But that's not the case if we dig a little bit deeper. You think all the way back to the garden where Adam and Eve were placed on the earth. Think about that. They were placed on the globe. And they were given one restriction: don't eat of that tree. God is not out to squelch our enjoyment in the things that He's created and called good. That's not the kind of God we have. Yeah, it's true that God does have ways that he wants us to live. He has called us to live in certain ways so that we can be in relationship with him. He will judge the ways in which we've gone against him. At the same time, God will judge the ways in which we've chosen not to enjoy the life he's given us. That's really what the preacher's getting at here. That God is going to judge us when we choose not to enjoy the life he's given us. His desire is that we enjoy life in the parameters that he's set so that we can know him and enjoy him more. And again, what are some of the things that then cause us not to enjoy life? Worry, right? Anxiety, being consumed with the troubles of this life. And so he says in verse 10, remove vexation. There's that word. Use it in a sentence this week. Give you $1. Remove vexation or remove anxiety from your heart or put away pain and evil and anger. In other words, God's desire is that you enjoy life within the context in which he's called you to enjoy life. So don't dwell on, don't be consumed by it, don't be worried about, don't have frustrations about, don't have the pains of this life. Your youth today is fading away, so rejoice. In some ways, we get to the end of chapter 11, and we can walk away feeling like we've just listened to Bobby McFerrin, right? Thank you, Jeff. All right, here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for a note. Come on. Don't worry. In this life, we may have some trouble. When we worry, you make it double. And so Bobby McFerrin puts this little spin on things, and it makes it seem easy, right? Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. And so what's the instruction from him? Just don't worry and be happy. Now, that may be a great little song. It's not, but it may be a great little song. But how do we apply that? How do you apply? You can't put that into action, can you? Here's all this stuff that I've got in my life. Don't worry, be happy. How do you apply that kind? And we read through chapter 11 and we think, well, isn't that what he's saying? Rejoice now in your youth when things in life are not going the way you'd like them to go. Still rejoice. When you're experiencing anxiety, depression, fear, worry, doubt, frustration, you know already that you're supposed to rejoice. And so do it. It's not helpful to simply have that instruction, is it? Don't worry, be happy, right? If you're worried, you just flip the switch and then you'll be happy. That's what it seems like when we get through chapter 11. Kirsten and I are very different people. If you know us, you know that. And there are times when her mind will begin to worry about things that will never be a concern of mine. Maybe it should be more, but it's not. And when we first got married, I was more of an idiot than I am now. And she would express some worry of hers to me. She would sort of pour out her heart and talk to me about how she was worried, and it was very real to her and very sincere. And my response to her in my youth would be, well, just don't worry about it. Just don't worry about that. Stop worrying, right? Think about all the great things we have in life, right? I try to put that in. Try to think about all the great things we have in life. Why don't you just stop worrying? Now, is that helpful? Ladies, is that helpful? It's not, right? In the same way with chapter 11 and really the entire book of Ecclesiastes, how helpful is it to know that we're supposed to rejoice? Rejoice. How helpful is that? Rejoice now. Rejoice in your youth. Now, rejoice. And so we need something to grab onto, don't we? We need something to grab onto and say, yeah, I need help with this, and this is how I'm supposed to do this. And so we get to chapter 12, and the preacher helps us in the first 8 verses of chapter 12, really puts the meat to what we're looking at here. Look at chapter 12, and we'll read through several really confusing verses. He says this, remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men are bent and the grinders cease because they're few and those who look through the windows are dimmed and the doors on the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low and one rises up at the sound of a bird, all the daughters of song are brought low. They're afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond trees blossom, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desires fail because man is going to his eternal home. And the mourners go about the streets before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. And the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. So how are we to rejoice in life? That's the question. How are we to rejoice? Those are confusing. We'll get there. In the days of your youth, your life, now, how are you to rejoice? And here's what the answer is. He tells us in the very first words of chapter 12. Remember your Creator. Remember your Creator. It's very intentional that the author of Ecclesiastes uses the word Creator and not God. He doesn't say some flippant coffee cup Christian bookstore, remember God. He says, remember your Creator, the one who spoke your life into existence, the one who speaks everything into existence from nothing. Remember your Creator, the very one who spoke everything into existence and has given you the life that you have to live and rejoice in. Remember that Creator. Isn't that what James tells us in James chapter 1? He says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Yes, that's the one we are to remember, that Creator. Remember your Creator. How are we to rejoice in life? By remembering your Creator. Now, this is not some simple instruction to recall that there is a God. That's not what he's getting at. In your troubled days, remember that there's a God who exists. That's not what he's saying. He's saying it's deeper than that. This is a command to use, to us to intentionally bring to mind daily what God, the Creator of all things, has done and continues to do for us and in us, and then act on that knowledge. So it's a much bigger word than just remember, recall, bring to memory. He's saying intentionally put into action the things that you know about God, who He is and what He's done and what He continues to do. It's a daily, intentional, regular, methodical thing. He is central in all things. Remember that. His plan and His purpose for your life is set. And so set your mind on doing His will. Remember your Creator. And then the teacher walks through several things in these 8 verses that seem really strange to us. Go back and read through it sometime with these things in mind. We're to remember these things about our Creator, but remember our Creator before we die. So remembering these things about life, and 3 times he uses the word before. So you can hang on to those words, before. In verse 1, before the evil days come and your days get to the point of you saying, I have no pleasure. Before that happens, remember your Creator. Verse 2, before the lights go out and your life fades. And then he goes on for a few verses talking about all the things we lose over time. In old age, we lose these things. Remember your Creator. Verse 3, we aren't strong anymore and our eyes go dim. Verse 4, our ears don't work well and we don't sleep like we used to, and we wake up to the sound of birds and we can't sing very well. Right? Some of you are there now. Verse 5, we're too old to climb to high places and we're scared of heights. Our hair turns white like the blossoms of almond trees. We drag ourselves along like an old grasshopper, and our desires and our appetites are failing, and we're headed to our eternal home. And then in verse 6, he says, before the silver cord is snapped, the golden bowl is broken, the pitcher shattered, the wheel broken, the dust returns before our lives fade away. Just like dust, the dust that we started from, it's all passing. Everything is passing, fading away here one moment and then gone. Remember your Creator. This life on earth is fading. is passing away. The only thing we are able to do to truly rejoice is by intentionally bringing to mind daily what God has done, is doing, and continues to do. But that takes intentionality, right? That doesn't mean you just getting up and going on with life and every now and again on a Sunday you show up here. That means intentionally putting into practice what we as a forgetful people need. We need reminders of the things that God has done. A song we sang last week has been going through my mind over and over this week, and the song repeats line after line, remember, remember, remember. Jesus brought you out of Egypt. He sought you as a people. He's brought you through the Red Sea. He's performed many miracles. You were slaves and now you're free. Remember Him. Remember He is King. Remember what He has done. Remember Him. But that's got to be intentional, right? That's got to be intentional. The Bible is full of examples of intentional reminders for us about what God has done, isn't it? It's just full of examples like this. One that comes to mind for me is found in the book of Joshua. Let me read from Joshua. Moses now has died, so you've got this guy, Moses, he's died. He's the leader of God's people. And Joshua then comes along and he's set up as the new leader. And in the very beginning verses of Joshua, God tells Joshua, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you. Be strong and courageous. I was with Moses before you. I'm not going to leave you or forsake you. Do not be frightened. The Lord your God is with you wherever you are going to go. Joshua was to lead God's people into the promised land of Canaan, but to do that, they had to get to the other side of the Jordan River at flood stage. And so only a miracle of God would allow that, and that's exactly what happens when the feet of the priests hit the water, touch the edge of the water. The river stops flowing. The river stops flowing. It splits open. The people walk across on dry ground, and in the midst of that, what we would think is a crazy thing, in the midst of that, Joshua tells 12 men, grab 12 stones. Hoist them up on your shoulder, and you're going to walk across this river to the other side. And listen to how this is described when they get to the other side. Verse 19 of Joshua chapter 4 says, the people came out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they encamped at Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal. And he said to the people of Israel, when your children ask their fathers in times to come, what do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you passed over, just as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which He dried up for us until we passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear the Lord your God forever. Do you see what He's done? See what's happened here? They set in place an intentional reminder of what God has done and who God is. And they've done that so that the children would see that God is great. So that the kids in their youth would see that God is great, and so that the people who would be growing up in these generations would see that God is great. And so here's an instruction to the dads. I usually don't do this kind of thing on a Hallmark holiday, but here we go. Dads, today's a day where you're celebrated, but your role in your family is significant. Your role is to point your children and your family to a great God. Your role is to remind your family of a Creator. And so are you doing that? Are you doing that? It's Father's Day, and so maybe now you're thinking, well, no, I'm not doing that at all. And so let me just challenge you here. Make this today your mark, where you just say, today's the day where I'm starting this. And from here on out, I'm going to point my children and my family and my own heart to my Creator. And I'm going to set up some intentional ways for us to do that. I'm going to intentionally, daily help my family remember our Creator so that we can rejoice knowing the God who is our Creator. And I'm going to do that today. I'm going to do that today. Now, some of you may say, I'd like to do that, but how? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like for you. Some sort of intentional way for you to work through this. I've talked through this before, but for us, here's an example for us. We don't have everything right, but here's something we do as a family. We sit down every night, the 7 of us in our front room, and we just work through, what are you thankful for? What has God done today that you're thankful for? And we write it all down in a book, and we date it. And then every night we do that, and we look back a month, and we look back a year, and we read through the things that God has done over those days and months and years, and our boys love it. I remember when I did that, and where God did that, and how these things happened, and that was great. And we read back through these intentional reminders of what God has done. What is that for you? Not just dads. What is it for you? Everyone. What is that for you where you have set up these intentional reminders? The people of the Bible did a great job of setting up intentional reminders of what God has done. And I think in some ways we've reacted to the rituals that we see in Scripture, and we see them as just rituals that could tempt us to think only about the ritual, and so we don't do them at all. Is anybody else there? Where we don't do them at all, and because we're tempted to think, oh, maybe it's only about the ritual, and I don't know the purpose behind it anymore. But I think we need to rethink that reaction and look for ways that we can intentionally remember God's work in our lives and its ongoing nature. This is what Jesus did for us, isn't it? Where he sat down with his disciples, his friends, to celebrate a meal of remembrance. Isn't that what he did? He marked a time, that this meal that had been set in place hundreds of years before, to remember God's work in freeing these people from slavery in Egypt. And so every year God's people would gather to celebrate a very detailed meal that pointed them to different aspects of what God had done in freeing them from Egypt. And so Jesus sits down with his disciples, with his friends on that night where they're celebrating that meal, and he begins to rearrange some of the symbolism to point to them to something different that was coming. What's he doing? He's setting up intentional reminders of things that were going to happen. He's showing that the people had not only been freed from slavery in Egypt, but now how great of a God we have that would free them from slavery of sin. And so he takes bread. Listen to this. Bread that was already on the table. This isn't some special thing. Like, as families, you don't need to think, well, we need to go buy all this stuff so that we can intentionally remember God. No, this stuff is on the table. So he reaches across and he grabs bread and he breaks it and he shows them this picture, this beautiful picture of what's going to happen. And he reaches forward and he grabs wine that was already on the table. And he takes that wine and he passes that to his friends, and he shows them how his body would be broken and how his blood would be shed, and he blesses it and he shows this to his friends. And do you know what he said when he gave the bread and the wine to his friends as he shared it? Do you know what he said? He says, "This is my body which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And then he goes on, he says, this cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. He's setting up intentional reminders that he's coming and has come to give his life. And so as a church, we celebrate this every week. Jesus has given us a command, an intentional reminder of what he has done, and he's commanded us to celebrate this meal. And so as a church, we do it every week. If you're new with us today, here's how we work through this process practically. We're going to sing some songs together confessing who Jesus is, confessing our sin, and confessing our need for a Savior. We're going to sing some songs together celebrating that we need a Savior. And as we do that, as we stand, you're going to come down the aisles and take the bread and dip it in the wine or the grape juice, and then you can head back to your seats. And here's what I want us to recognize as we work through this. We're a full group of people, and we're tight. And as we get up and as we're moving and bumping shoulders and walking past people, here's what's going through your mind. Not, oh, what is he wearing today? But, oh, he's a sinner in need of Jesus, and he's celebrating that the work is finished. Just like I am. And we're passing people, and we're seeing people, and we're slapping people on the back and hugging one another as we celebrate our need. And our need is Jesus. Remembering that. We have reason to rejoice, don't we, friends? We have reason to rejoice. Our lives on earth are fading, but we have reason to rejoice, and we have reason to remember our Creator because he sent his Son to stand in our place. If you're here this morning and you're not a believer, you're here with a friend, you don't know where you land on all this stuff, we just ask that you stay right where you are. It's not a big deal to us. We want to keep having these conversations. Maybe if a friend brought you or a family member, they can keep having these conversations with you. But if you're here this morning and you would say, I'm not a believer, then we just ask that you stay right where you are. This is a meal for those who put their hope and their trust in Jesus and the finished work of the cross. So we're going to celebrate that this morning, remembering what Jesus has done. Can I pray for us, and then we'll continue? Father, we come to you this morning knowing that you are our Father. You are a perfect Father. Where our earthly fathers have failed us, you will never. Where I, as a father, will fail my own sons, you will never fail them. So we recognize that this morning, and we understand that you are a God who loves us unconditionally. You love us where we are. You've called us to enjoy the life we have and rejoice in it. And so I pray, Father, where we are living lives where we're not rejoicing today, I pray that you would show us where that is. Show us how we can be changing. But God, help us also to understand that our changing comes from you. You're the one at work changing us. And I pray that you would help us where we have not been intentional about our remembering you, our thinking about you, our looking at you. Where we have not done that, I pray that you would show us ways that we can. I pray that we would not walk away from here today thinking, I'll get to that sometime. But God, would you help us today? Would you help us today to put into practice some real intentional steps of knowing how we can look to you as our Creator and rejoice in today? Would you help us in that? God, if there are those in this room this morning who are in a place where they're doubting and where rejoicing seems overwhelming, where that doesn't even seem like a possibility, I pray that you would do just as your word has said, that you would turn our mourning into rejoicing. For those in this room who are there, who are in despair, I pray that you would turn their weeping into dancing. That's a work that you do, God, and so we wait for you. We wait for you to work, and all the while we keep our eyes fixed on you. So help us to do that, we pray. Amen.